The morning alarm buzzed at exactly 0500 hours, just like every other day for the past 8 years. Alina Voss rolled out of her narrow bunk and pulled on her worn maintenance coveralls. The fabric was stained with crystal dust and hydraulic fluid, marks of honest work in the deep mines of New Haven Colony. Outside her small prefab unit, the artificial dawn was beginning to light up the underground settlement. Kepler 440b had no real sun that reached this deep into the planet's crust, so the colony used massive light panels to simulate day and night. Alina grabbed her toolkit and joined the stream of workers heading toward the mine shafts. "Morning, Alina," called out Mrs. Patterson from the bakery stall. The older woman always had a kind smile for the quiet maintenance worker. "Fresh bread today if you want some after your shift." Alina nodded and gave a small wave. She had learned to be friendly but not too close with the colonists. In 8 years, she had built a reputation as a reliable worker who kept to herself. People respected her space, especially after she told them she had lost family in the war. It was not exactly a lie, but it was not the whole truth either. The mine elevator descended for 10 minutes before reaching level 7, where Alina spent most of her days. The crystal formations here were beautiful but dangerous. One wrong move with the extraction equipment could cause a cave-in or release toxic gases. Alina's job was to maintain the heavy machinery that kept the operation running smoothly. That she was checking the hydraulic pressure on drill unit 12 when the first alarm went off. It was not the usual mine safety alert. This was different. The sound made Alina's blood run cold. She had not heard that particular alarm in 8 years, but she recognized it immediately. It was the colony's external threat warning. Alina dropped her tools and ran toward the nearest communications console. Around her, other workers were looking confused and worried. Most of them had never heard this alarm before. New Haven was supposed to be safe, hidden in a remote system that no hostile aliens had ever visited. The main screen flickered to life, showing Colony Administrator Marcus Reed's worried face. Behind him, Alina could see the chaos of the command center. "Attention all colonists," Reed's voice crackled through the speakers. "We have detected unknown vessels approaching our system. This is not a drill. All personnel should report to designated safe zones immediately." Alina felt her hands start to shake, but not from fear. She pushed through the crowd of confused miners and made her way to the surface level. The colony's main observation deck was packed with people staring at the displays showing the approaching ships. The vessels were unlike anything in human design. They were long and curved, with a dark metal surface that seemed to absorb light. Alina counted 12 of them, moving in a formation that spoke of military discipline. These were not explorers or traders. These were warships. "Can anyone identify these ships?" Reed was asking his staff. "Are they from one of the known alien species?" Alina knew immediately that they were not. During the war, she had memorized the designs of every known hostile vessel. These ships were completely new. The realization hit her like a physical blow. Humanity was facing a new enemy, and this remote colony was about to become a battlefield. The colony's defense coordinator, a nervous man named Phillips, was trying to activate the orbital defense grid. Alina watched as he pressed buttons and spoke into his headset with increasing panic. "Sir, the defense grid is not responding," Phillips reported to Reed. "The system appears to be completely offline." "What do you mean offline?" Reed demanded. "I mean dead, sir. Something has disabled our entire defensive network." Alina closed her eyes and took a deep breath. She had hoped never to think about military tactics again, but her mind was already analyzing the situation. The aliens had disabled the defenses before revealing themselves. That meant they had been in the system for some time, studying human technology and preparing their attack. The main screen switched to an external view as the alien ships moved closer to the planet. They were beautiful in a terrifying way, their dark hulls reflecting the light of Kepler 442b's distant star. Alina could see weapon ports along their sides, more firepower than the entire colonial fleet could handle. "Emergency evacuation protocol is now in effect," Reed announced. "All civilians should proceed to the transport ships in hangars 1 through 4. Alina knew it was already too late. The transport ships were slow cargo haulers, never designed for combat situations. The aliens would destroy them before they could clear the planet's atmosphere. She watched as families gathered their belongings and rushed toward the hangars, not knowing they were walking into a trap. Security Chief David Kane was trying to organize the evacuation, his voice calm despite the chaos around him. Alina had always respected Kane. He was a good man who cared about the colonists, but he had no military experience. None of them did. Alina slipped away from the crowd and made her way toward the maintenance tunnels. She knew every passage in the colony after 8 years of working here. The tunnels led to a small auxiliary hangar that most people had forgotten about. Inside was an old interceptor that had been gathering dust since the colony's early days. The ship was a Mark 7 Falcon. Outdated but still functional. Alina had been secretly maintaining it during her off hours, telling herself it was just a hobby. Now she realized her subconscious had been preparing for this day. She climbed into the cockpit and her hands moved across the controls without conscious thought. 8 years of hiding could not erase muscle memory built over a decade of Combat flying. The ship's systems came online with a familiar hum. Authorization required for ship activation. The computer announced. Alina hesitated for a moment, then spoke the override code she had sworn never to use again. The computer accepted it immediately, and suddenly all the ship's advanced systems were available to her. As she powered up the engines, Alina heard footsteps in the hangar. She turned to see David Kane standing at the entrance, his weapon drawn but not pointed at her. "Nobody knows how to fly military hardware unless they have been trained," Kane said quietly. "Who are you really?" Alina looked at him through the cockpit window, knowing that her 8 years of peaceful anonymity were about to end. The question hung in the air between them as the alien ships drew closer to New Haven Colony. Alina stared at David Kane through the cockpit window, her heart pounding. For 8 years, she had dreaded this moment. She could lie, try to convince him she had just picked up some basic piloting skills, but the advanced military override codes she had used made that impossible. "My name is Alina Voss," she said through the ship's external speakers. "But during the war they called me something else." Kane lowered his weapon slightly, his expression changing from suspicion to confusion. "The war ended 8 years ago. Most of the military records from that time are classified." Alina powered down the ship's engines and climbed out of the cockpit. She had to make Kane understand the danger they were all in, and that meant revealing the secret she had kept buried for so long. "I was Captain Alina Voss Calcine Reaper," she said quietly. "I commanded the 77th Fighter Squadron during the final assault on the Zephyrian home fleet." Kane's eyes widened. Even in the remote colonies, people knew the stories from the war's end. The Reaper was a legend, the pilot who had single-handedly destroyed 17 enemy dreadnoughts and led the strike that broke the Zephyrian Empire. "That's impossible," Kane said. "The Reaper died in the final battle. The official reports said her ship was destroyed along with the enemy flagship." "The reports were wrong," Alina replied. "I survived, but my entire squadron died getting me to that target. 23 pilots gave their lives so I could end the war. After that, I could not face going back to Earth as a hero." She had faked her death with help from a sympathetic intelligence officer who understood what the war had cost her. Alina Voss, the war hero, died in the explosion that destroyed the Zephyrian flagship. Alina Voss, the mining technician, was born in the refugee camps afterward, just another victim trying to rebuild her life. Kane holstered his weapon completely. "If you really are who you say you are, then we need you now more than ever. Those ships out there, they're not like anything from the war." Alina nodded grimly. "I know. These are not Zephyrians. This is something new." They made their way back to the command center, where the situation had grown worse. The alien ships had taken position around the planet, but they were not attacking. Instead, they seemed to be scanning the surface, searching for something specific. "What's our tactical situation?" Alina asked Reed when they arrived. "Not good," the administrator replied. "We have 6 transport ships and 2 patrol boats. The patrol boats have light weapons, but nothing that could threaten those warships." Alina studied the tactical display, her military training taking over. The alien formation was efficient but cautious. They were being careful not to damage the planet's surface, which meant they wanted something here intact. "They're looking for something," she told the others. "This is not a random attack." As if responding to her words, the communications console crackled to life. A new voice filled the command center, speaking in accented but clear human language. "Humans of New Haven Colony," the voice said. "I am Captain Dices of the Vorthok fleet. We know that the one you call the Reaper lives among you. Surrender her to us, and your colony will be spared. Refuse, and you will share her fate." The command center fell silent. Alina felt every eye turned toward her, and she saw the fear and suspicion growing on their faces. After 8 years of living peacefully among these people, she was once again the bringer of death and destruction. "How do they know you're here?" Kane asked quietly. "I don't know," Alina replied, but her mind was racing. During the final battle, something had happened when she destroyed the Zephyrian flagship. Her ship had been caught in some kind of energy feedback, and she had experienced strange visions before escaping. She had always assumed it was just combat stress and exhaustion. Reed stepped forward, his face pale but determined. "We don't surrender our people to aliens. That's not who we are." But Alina could see doubt in the eyes of the other colonists. She was a stranger who had lied about her identity for 8 years. Why should they risk their lives for her? "Maybe we should consider their offer," said Dr. Martinez from the medical center. "If giving up one person could save thousands of lives." "No," Kane interrupted firmly. "We don't negotiate with hostiles." Alina made her decision. "I'll take one of the patrol boats and lead them away from the colony. Once I'm clear of the planet, you can evacuate everyone." "That's suicide," Kane protested. "It's what needs to be done." Alina was already moving toward the hangar when the first explosions shook the colony. Through the windows, they could see the alien ships firing precision strikes at the orbital defense platforms. The Vorthok were not waiting for an answer. "All ships launch immediately," Reed ordered over the colony-wide communications. "This is a full evacuation." Alina ran to the auxiliary hangar where she had left the old interceptor. Behind her, she could hear Kane following with several security officers. When she reached the ship, she found that Kane had brought something unexpected, a group of colonists she had never suspected. "Meet the real crew of Mining Station 7, Kane said. Former Lieutenant Tom Bradley, ex-Navy pilot, Rita Chen, former fleet engineer, and Mike Torres, who used to run electronic warfare for the Marine Corps. Elena stared at them in surprise. "You've all been hiding here too." "Just like you," Bradley said with a grim smile. "We all had our reasons for wanting to disappear after the war." Rita was already running diagnostics on the Interceptor's systems. "This old bird has good bones, but she's not going to last long against those Vorthok ships. We need better firepower." "The cargo hauler in Bay 3 has been modified," Torres added. "I've been working on it for years, installing military-grade electronics that I salvaged from the war. It's not pretty, but it has heavy shields and decent weapons." Elena felt a spark of hope for the first time since the aliens had arrived. She was not alone in this fight. "All right," she said. "Let's see what we can do." As they prepared the ships for battle, the Vorthok fleet moved into attack formation. Elena watched them through the hangar's observation window and noticed something that made her blood run cold. The alien ships were not just randomly positioned. They were forming the same attack pattern that the Zephyrians had used during the war's final battle. "They know how I fight," she realized. "They've studied the battle records." Kane looked at her with concern. "How is that possible? The Zephyrians were supposed to be extinct." Elena did not have an answer, but she was beginning to understand that her past was more complicated than she had thought. Whatever had happened during that final battle 8 years ago, it had connected her to something much larger than a simple war between two species. The first Vorthok fighter squadrons were launching from their carriers, heading straight for the colony. Elena climbed into the Interceptor's cockpit and began the startup sequence. "This is Reaper to all units," she said over the radio, using her old calcine for the first time in 8 years. "We are heavily outnumbered, but we have the advantage of knowing this terrain. Stick close to the planet's surface and use the canyons for cover." As her ship lifted off, Elena could see the transport ships struggling to clear the atmosphere while under fire from Vorthok interceptors. The colony's few defenders were doing their best, but they were outmatched by superior technology and numbers. Elena pushed her ship to maximum speed and dove into the battle, her rusty skills quickly returning, but even as she fought, she could not shake the feeling that this was all part of some larger plan. The Vorthok had come here specifically looking for her, and they seemed to know exactly how she would respond. The question was why? What made the Reaper so important that an alien fleet would cross the galaxy to find her? The battle for New Haven Colony raged for 3 hours before Elena finally understood why the Vorthok wanted her so desperately. During a brief break in the fighting, while her ship recharged its weapons in the cover of a deep canyon, she intercepted a coded transmission between the enemy vessels. Her old military translation software was still installed in the Interceptor's computer, a relic from the war that she had never bothered to remove. The Vorthok language was similar enough to Zephyrian that the programs could provide a rough translation of their communications. What she read made her hands tremble on the controls. "The Reaper carries the navigation core," the transmission said. "She does not know it exists, but the quantum data was embedded during the final battle. Without it, we cannot locate the remaining Guardian worlds." Elena's mind raced as the pieces fell into place. During her attack on the Zephyrian flagship 8 years ago, something had happened when her ship's systems interfaced with the enemy's computer core. She remembered the strange visions, the feeling that information was flowing directly into her brain. At the time, she had thought it was just the stress of battle, but apparently the Zephyrian flagship's navigation database had downloaded itself into her ship's neural interface system. The information was still there, hidden in quantum encryption that even she could not access. And now the Vorthok needed that data to continue their expansion across the galaxy. Elena emerged from the canyon and rejoined the battle. But her perspective had completely changed. She was not just fighting to protect the colony anymore. She was protecting the locations of every inhabited world in this section of the galaxy. "Reaper, this is Bradley," came Tom's voice over the radio. "We've got a problem. The transport ships are taking heavy casualties. We need to do something or the evacuation is going to fail." Elena looked at her tactical display and saw that Tom was right. The Vorthok fighters were systematically destroying the civilian ships, trapping the colonists on the planet's surface. The few human defenders were fighting bravely, but they were being overwhelmed. "Rita, what's the status on that cargo hauler?" Elena asked. "We've got her running, but barely," came the engineer's reply. "The weapons are online, but the power core is unstable. I can give you maybe 30 minutes of full combat before we risk a catastrophic failure." Elena made her decision. "All units, form up on me. We're going to punch a hole through their fighter screen and give the transports a chance to escape." "That's suicide," Kane protested from his patrol boat. "There are too many of them." "Maybe," Elena replied, "but it's our job to buy time for the civilians." The human ships formed a tight formation and accelerated toward the heart of the Vorthok fleet. Elena led them in a desperate charge, using every trick she had learned during the war. They weaved between the alien capital ships, targeting their fighter bays and weapon systems. For a few minutes, the plan seemed to work. The surprise attack caught the Vorthok off guard, and several transport ships managed to break through the blockade. But then the aliens adapted, and the human formation began taking heavy losses. Mike Torres's ship was the first to go down, his electronic warfare systems finally overwhelmed by the enemy's superior technology. Tom Bradley followed minutes later, his patrol boat disabled by a direct hit to the engines. Alina watched helplessly as her new squadron mates crashed to the planet's surface. "This is not working," Rita said over the radio. "We need a new plan." Alina was about to respond when something impossible appeared on her sensors. A massive ship was decloaking near the edge of the system, its design unlike anything she had ever seen. It was clearly alien, but not Vorthok. The vessel was ancient and elegant, with curved lines that reminded her of Zephyrian architecture. "Unknown vessel, this is the Vorthok fleet," Captain Thisis transmitted. "You are interfering with a legitimate military operation. Withdraw immediately or face the consequences." The response came in perfect, unaccented human language. "This is Commander Orcs of the Zephyrian Remnant Fleet. We claim right of sanctuary for the human called Reaper. Withdraw your forces or face the judgment of the old laws." Elena's jaw dropped. The Zephyrians were supposed to be extinct. She had helped destroy their home fleet 8 years ago. How could any of them still be alive? The Vorthok fleet immediately changed formation, turning their weapons toward the new arrival. Elena realized that this was her chance to learn the truth about what had happened during the final battle, and why she had become so important to both species. "Commander Arxes," she transmitted, "this is Elena Voss. I need to know what's really going on here." "Reaper," came the reply, "there is much you do not understand about the war, and about what you carry within your ship's memory core. I suggest you dock with my vessel immediately. The Vorthok will not wait long before attacking." Elena looked at her fuel gauge and weapon status. Her ship was nearly spent, and the colony's defenses were crumbling. Kane and Rita were still fighting, but they could not hold out much longer against the superior Vorthok technology. "I'm not abandoning the colony," Elena said firmly. "You do not understand," Arxes replied. "If the Vorthok obtain the navigation data you carry, they will have the locations of every inhabited world in 3 spiral arms. Your colony of a few thousand people will be forgotten in the face of billions of deaths." Elena felt the weight of impossible responsibilities settling on her shoulders. She had thought her war was over 8 years ago, but apparently it had never really ended. She was still carrying the burden of protecting humanity, whether she wanted to or not. "Rita, can you and Kane handle the evacuation?" she asked. "We'll do our best," Rita replied. "But you better have a good reason for leaving us here." Elena did not answer immediately. Instead, she looked at the tactical display showing the positions with the Vorthok fleet and the mysterious Zephyrian ship. She was about to make a decision that would change everything, not just for New Haven Colony, but for the entire galaxy. The Vorthok were already launching fighters toward Commander Arxes' ship. Elena realized that she had perhaps minutes to make her choice before the situation became even more complicated. "All units continue the evacuation," she finally said. "I'm going to get some answers." Elena turned her interceptor toward the Zephyrian vessel and pushed her engines to maximum power. Behind her, the battle for New Haven Colony continued, but she was no longer just fighting for one small mining settlement. She was fighting for the future of human civilization itself. As her ship approached the alien vessel, Elena tried to prepare herself for whatever revelations awaited her, but she had a feeling that nothing could have prepared her for the truth about the war, about the Zephyrians, and about the terrible burden she had been carrying for 8 long years. The docking bay of the Zephyrian ship opened to receive her, and Elena flew into the unknown, leaving behind the quiet life she had built on New Haven Colony. She was the Reaper once again, whether she wanted to be or not. Elena's interceptor touched down in the docking bay of the Zephyrian ship, and she immediately felt the difference in the artificial gravity. It was lighter than human standard, making her movements feel strange and disconnected. The bay itself was beautiful in an alien way, with curved walls that seemed to flow like water and lighting that shifted subtly in response to her presence. Commander Arxes was waiting for her at the bottom of the landing ramp. Elena had expected to feel hatred when she saw a Zephyrian again, but instead, she felt only curiosity. Arxes was tall and graceful, with the pale blue skin and silver markings that were characteristic of his species. His large dark eyes held an expression of deep sadness. "Captain Voss," he said in perfect English, inclining his head respectfully. "I apologize for the deception, but it was necessary to bring you here." "Deception?" Elena asked, keeping her hand near her sidearm. "What deception?" "The war," Arxes replied simply. "It was not what either of our species believed it to be." Elena followed him through corridors that seemed to grow and shift around them, as if the ship itself were alive. The technology was far beyond anything she had seen during the war, which raised disturbing questions about how much the Zephyrians had been holding back during their conflicts with humanity. They entered a large chamber filled with holographic displays showing star maps and fleet movements. Elena recognized many of the locations from her military service, but there were far more inhabited worlds marked than she had ever known existed. "The Vorthok are not from this galaxy," Arxes explained, manipulating the displays to show a view of the cosmic void between spiral arms. "They are refugees from a dying galaxy, consuming entire worlds to fuel their fleets. For millions of years, my people served as guardians, keeping species like the Vorthok contained in the dark spaces between stars. Alina studied the star maps, trying to understand the scope of what Orcs was telling her. If you were guardians, why did you attack human colonies? Why did we have to fight a war? Orcs' expression grew even sadder. Because we failed in our duty. A faction of my people believed that younger species like humanity could never understand the threats that existed in the void. They thought it would be better to keep you contained in your small corner of the galaxy, protected but ignorant. So you started a war to protect us. Elena's voice carried a mix of anger and disbelief. Not I, Orcs clarified. I was part of the faction that opposed the war. We believed that humanity had the potential to become guardians themselves, given time and knowledge. But our voices were not heard until it was too late. The holographic display shifted to show the final battle 8 years ago. Alina watched her younger self leading the attack on the Zephyrian flagship, reliving the moment that had changed everything. When you destroyed the flagship, you did more than end the war, Orcs continued. The quantum explosion released a navigation database that our people had spent millennia compiling. The data merged with your ship's neural interface, creating a connection that even we did not fully understand. Alina felt a chill run down her spine. What kind of connection? You carry the locations of every known inhabited world in this galaxy, as well as the coordinates of our hidden weapons caches. But more than that, the quantum entanglement has been slowly changing your neural patterns, preparing you for something greater. Preparing me for what? To become what my people once were. A guardian. Alina took a step back, overwhelmed by the implications. That's impossible, I'm just a pilot. You are much more than that, Orcs said gently. During the past 8 years, your brain has been processing quantum data at a subconscious level. You have been developing abilities that you do not yet understand. Enhanced spatial awareness, predictive combat instincts, the ability to interface directly with advanced technology. Alina thought about her years on New Haven Colony, remembering moments when she had seemed to know things she could not possibly know, maintenance problems she solved without understanding why. Navigation shortcuts through the mind tunnels that she discovered by instinct rather than memory. The Vorthok know what you are becoming, Orcs continued. They have been hunting you because they understand that a new guardian could stop their expansion across the galaxy. But they also need the navigation data you carry to locate the worlds they wish to consume. How many of your people are still alive? Alina asked. Perhaps a few hundred, scattered across the galaxy in hidden ships like this one. We have been preparing for the day when the Vorthok would finally break through our old containment barriers. That day has come. Alina looked at the tactical displays, showing the battles still raging around New Haven Colony. Even with their advanced technology, Orcs' ship could not fight an entire Vorthok fleet alone. What do you need from me? She asked. There are 7 weapons caches hidden throughout this galaxy, Orcs explained. Each one contains technology that could arm a fleet capable of stopping the Vorthok invasion. But the quantum encryption means that only you can access them. Then let's go get them. It is not that simple, Orcs warned. The quantum entanglement is unstable. Each time you access a cache, the process will accelerate the changes in your neural patterns. By the time we reach the 7th cache, you may no longer be entirely human. Alina considered this for a moment, then made her decision. Better that than letting the Vorthok destroy every human colony in the galaxy. Orcs nodded approvingly. I hoped you would say that, but there is one more thing you should know. Your friends from the colony, Kane and Rita, have been following us. They refuse to abandon you, even knowing the danger. Alina looked at the external sensors and saw the modified cargo hauler keeping pace with the Zephyrian ship. She felt a mix of gratitude and concern for her unexpected allies. Can we take them with us? She asked. Their ship lacks the quantum shielding necessary to survive the journey to some of the cache locations, Orcs replied. But Rita appears to be a skilled engineer. Perhaps she can modify their vessel using our technology. Alina made her decision. Let them dock. We're going to need all the help we can get. As the cargo hauler was brought into the docking bay, Alina tried to prepare herself for what lay ahead. She was about to embark on a journey that would take her to the most dangerous places in the galaxy, racing against time to gather weapons that might save humanity. But more than that, she was going to have to come to terms with the fact that she was changing into something beyond human understanding. The quiet life she had built on New Haven Colony was gone forever. She was the Reaper again, but this time she was becoming something even more significant. Rita and Kane emerged from their ship, looking around the alien docking bay with a mixture of awe and concern. Alina walked over to greet them, knowing that she was asking them to risk everything on a mission that might be impossible. Welcome aboard, she said with a slight smile. Hope you're ready for the most dangerous road trip in galactic history. Kane looked at the advanced Zephyrian technology surrounding them and shook his head. 8 years of quiet mining work, and now this. You really know how to make life interesting, Alina. Rita was already examining the alien systems with an engineer's curiosity. If we're going to do this, we're going to need some serious upgrades. To our ship, this quantum technology is beyond anything I've ever seen. Alina looked at her unlikely team, a former security chief, an ex-military engineer, and an alien commander whose people had once been humanity's enemies. It was not the crew she would have chosen, but it was the crew she had, and somehow, they were going to have to save the galaxy. The journey to the first 6 weapons caches took Alina and her team across the galaxy, and with each successful mission, Alina could feel herself changing. The quantum entanglement was accelerating, giving her abilities that seemed impossible. She could sense the movement of ships through space without looking at sensors, predict enemy attack patterns before they formed, and interface with alien technology as if she had designed it herself. But the changes came with a terrible cost. Alina's human memories were becoming distant and unclear, replaced by vast knowledge of galactic history and cosmic threats. She found herself thinking in mathematical concepts that her human brain should not have been able to understand. The neural degradation is accelerating, Rita reported as they prepared for the final mission. According to the medical scanners, Elena's brain patterns are becoming increasingly non-human. Kane looked at Elena with concern. She was standing at the navigation console, her eyes closed as she communed directly with the ship's quantum computer systems. How much time does she have left? Maybe hours, Rita said quietly. The process is irreversible now. Commander Orcs approached them, his alien features showing deep sadness. The final cache contains the most powerful weapons in history, but it is hidden inside the event horizon of a black hole. The quantum distortions there will complete Elena's transformation instantly. Transform her into what? Kane demanded. Into what my people once were, before we became bound by physical form. A guardian consciousness, capable of existing across multiple ships simultaneously, watching over entire sectors of space. Alina opened her eyes and turned to face them. When she spoke, her voice carried harmonics that no human throat should have been able to produce. The Vorthok have gathered their entire invasion fleet at the galactic edge. If we do not stop them now, they will consume 1,000 worlds before they can be contained again. There has to be another way, Kane insisted. You can't sacrifice yourself for this. Alina smiled, and for a moment she looked almost human again. David, I died 8 years ago with my squadron. Everything since then has been borrowed time. At least this way, my death will mean something. The modified cargo hauler had been integrated with Zephyrian quantum technology, creating a hybrid vessel that could barely survive the journey to the black hole. Rita had worked miracles with the alien systems, but even she admitted that the ship might not hold together under the extreme gravitational stresses they would face. The Vorthok fleet is pursuing us, Orcs reported. Captain Thesis has committed every ship to stopping us from reaching the final cache. Alina moved to the pilot's station, her movements now flowing with inhuman grace. Then we better make sure they don't catch us. The chase through 3-star systems was unlike anything in recorded military history. The Vorthok fleet consisted of over 200 warships, but Elena's expanding consciousness allowed her to predict their movements with perfect accuracy. She led them through asteroid fields and solar storms, using the environment itself as a weapon. Rita worked frantically to keep their hybrid ship functioning as gravitational forces that should have torn it apart somehow held together through sheer will and quantum engineering. Kane coordinated the defensive systems, targeting Vorthok fighters with weapons that bent the laws of physics. As they approached the black hole, Alina could feel her human consciousness beginning to fragment. Memories of her childhood, her military training, her quiet years on New Haven Colony, all of it was fading into the expanding quantum awareness that was replacing her human mind. Alina, Kane called out, "Can you still hear me?" "I hear you, David," she replied, though her voice now seemed to come from the ship itself rather than her physical form. "Thank you for being my friend when I needed one most." The event horizon of the black hole appeared ahead of them, a sphere of absolute darkness surrounded by the brilliant accretion disk of matter being pulled to its doom. But Alina could see through the darkness now, perceiving the quantum pocket where the to have had hidden their greatest weapons. "Initiating quantum fold," she announced, her consciousness already beginning to merge with the ship's systems. The transition through the event horizon should have been impossible, but Elena's transformed awareness allowed her to navigate spaces that existed outside normal physics. She found herself in a vast chamber filled with ships that seemed to be made of crystallized space and time. The Zephyrian Guardian fleet had been waiting for 1,000,000 years, held in temporal stasis until the day a new Guardian would claim them. As Elena's consciousness expanded to encompass the ancient vessels, she finally understood what she had become. She was no longer Elena Voss, human pilot and mining technician. She was the Guardian, protector of 1,000 worlds, keeper of the balance between order and chaos in the galaxy. The Guardian fleet emerged from the black hole, just as the Vorthok armada arrived for the final confrontation. Alina, now distributed across hundreds of ships, faced Captain Dices and his invasion force with technology that made their weapons seem like primitive tools. "You are too late," Guardian Dices transmitted. "Our conquest ships are already approaching human space. Even if you destroy us here, others will continue our mission." Then I will stop them too, Alina replied, her voice carrying across every frequency simultaneously. I am the Guardian now, and I will protect this galaxy for as long as threats exist. The battle that followed was less a fight than a demonstration of power. The Guardian fleet moved as one organism, Elena's consciousness coordinating attacks with precision that no individual pilot could achieve. The Vorthok ships were not destroyed but disabled, their crews teleported to distant worlds where they could no longer threaten anyone. Captain Desus himself was brought aboard the flagship, where Alina appeared to him as a shimmering hologram that seemed to exist in multiple dimensions simultaneously. Your people will be given a choice, she told him. Find empty worlds to colonize peacefully, or face the judgment of the Guardian fleet whenever you threaten other species. Desus looked at her with a mixture of fear and respect. You are no longer human. No, Alina agreed. But I remember what it was like to be human. I remember caring about individual lives, about protecting the innocent. That is what makes me different from your people, and from the old Zephyrian Guardians. With the Vorthok threat contained, Alina turned her attention to the human colonies that needed protection. She could sense Rita and Kane aboard the modified cargo hauler. Both of them changed by their exposure to the quantum technology but still fundamentally human. What happens to us now? Kane asked. You go home, Alina replied, her voice somehow managing to sound both cosmic and familiar. Tell the colonies what happened here. Let them know that they are protected, but that they must also grow stronger. The galaxy is vast, and there are threats that even I cannot face alone. Rita looked at the readings from her modified sensors, trying to understand the scope of what Alina had become. Will we ever see you again? I am always watching, Alina said gently. Whenever humanity ventures into the dark spaces between stars, whenever you face threats too great to handle alone, I will be there. The Guardian fleet dispersed across the galaxy, Elena's consciousness spreading to watch over countless worlds. She established hidden bases in asteroid fields and empty systems, creating a network of protection that spanned entire spiral arms. Years passed, and Elena's legend grew. Merchants spoke of mysterious rescues when their ships were attacked by pirates. Colonists reported strange lights in the sky during alien raids, lights that drove off the attackers without explanation. On New Haven Colony, now rebuilt and thriving, David Kane served as the new administrator. Rita had become the chief engineer for the colonial fleet, using the hybrid technology she had learned to design ships that could defend themselves against future threats. Sometimes, during quiet moments, they would receive brief transmissions on old military frequencies, just a few words, spoken in a voice they both remembered. Guardian Station 2, all colonial vessels, space lanes are clear, safe travels. Alina Voss, the quiet mining technician who had hidden her identity for 8 years, was gone forever. But the Guardian watched over the galaxy with eternal vigilance, protecting the innocent and maintaining the balance between order and chaos among the stars. In the depths of space, where no human eye could see, ancient ships moved in formation, guided by a consciousness that remembered what it meant to be human but had become something far greater. The Reaper's last flight had ended, but the Guardian's eternal watch had just begun.